Hello, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. Now, unfortunately, unscheduled. There's only two of us. We did have lined up for 3-4 of us, but last minute it's been down to two of us. So, excuse my throat. It's not very good at the moment. We're at a lack of things to talk about in the news and see what's been going on. So I know we've both got up the same website. So first on the list is Metro City's EV fleet taken off the road after in London and York after safety checks after a fire. Now, those that have been following the news, obviously you'll have seen Potter's Bar Depot on Sunday, the 22nd of May, which had a lovely heating facility installed in it. It was an unplanned heating facility, but nevertheless, it was installed. And I don't know, and I remember seeing the video, and it was quite a bad video.
Yeah, I've seen videos around too. It was a really, really bad fire.
Yeah, and just looking at the picture that Bus and Coach Weekly's got on their website, that looks like at least 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are total, 7 are total write-off.
Yeah, from what I found, it's 6 buses that have been damaged.
Yeah, but it begs the question to, is this electric buses that actually the way forward? If this is how they burn, and we all know batteries burn well.
It's not even to do with the batteries. What a bus is primarily made of?
Well,
Fiberglass and plastic.
Yeah.
Plastic, you put a lighter next to a bit of plastic, it'll put it next to a crisp packet, it'll just go up.
Don't get ideas, kids.
When you've got the same amount of heat, you've got more heat next to a bus which has got thicker plastic, then it's going to melt and catch on quicker. And then you've got all the rubber sheathing on the wires. You've then got the seats. The seat material itself combusts like I don't know what.
Well, it reports that there's 6 buses involved and 2 of the Switch Mobility electric buses.
Yeah.
So it's two electric hybrids and 4 diesel-powered buses. But it's still a hell of a lot of battery to try and put out, especially once it starts shorting out and becoming a major issue.
Yeah. But it's one of those things could it have been prevented a little bit and someone being courageous and moving, some of the diesel buses out the way and creating a bit of distance?
Do you mean like they did in Stockport?
Yes.
When they tried to get as many buses away from the one that was burning as possible in the shortest amount of time.
Whether they get crash damage in the process or whatever, just get them shifted.
Yeah, you can fix crash damage.
Yeah. Whereas there's 6 buses that are scrapped now. Well, 5 definite. There's a Volvo on the left-hand side that might be savable.
Might be, I doubt it, though.
Yeah.
But I'm taking it from the news article that it was a Switch Mobility Metro Decker EV model that caught fire for them to take them off the road specifically.
Yep.
For checks.
Yeah, they've took 108 off in London and then 21 off in York, Park and Ride.
Well, they can't be short of drivers now.
Well, there is that.
Missing a load of buses.
But then going on with bus fires, as we were speaking about yesterday, Jordan, it's not just the electric ones that are going up. Manchester, what was it, 2 weeks ago, that there was an Enviro 400 that went up?
Yeah, it seems to be the conversion of the diesel buses to Euro 6 that seems to be maybe doing it. Because I know there's quite a few that have been converted that have gone up. Because they're just not designed to handle the heat and the back pressure of the regenerating systems. But that's the problem with all this, we want clean air thing. Well, We do, but a bus isn't that dirty these days. A lot of the older buses aren't actually that dirty.
They are when they've got fueling issues, but other than that, they run clean. We've proven that.
Yeah, we proved that with the 1999 B10, which blew some of the lowest results going, and that's what now 10 years, 15 years old plus.
Well,
We tested it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's more problems with people, with the operators maintaining them properly and the fueling systems and what have you properly to fix them issues and make it a bit more environmentally friendly. But at the same point, surely the bus is more environmentally friendly if it's got more people on it than a car. Which was what the whole green air zone in Manchester was about and why it kicked off and why it's now under review. Because you can go round in your old banger as much as you want, but you dare buy a van or try using a bus, you get charged.
Unless your bus is over 20 years old, privately owned, and you can do what you want with it.
Yeah, it's a bit unfair in that respect, which is obviously why it kicked off and why it's been put under hold. But I know TfL, there's a story that I've just brought up for TfL, which we can link into, quite frankly, which TfL seeks views on expanding the ULEZ London-wide zone. I mean, how wide do we go with these zones? I mean, it's currently in... I'm just quickly reading it now. It's currently in... wants to be put into like Croydon and stuff like that, where the highest numbers were. My laptop's just getting back to usability. The mayor is dealing it as a emergency crisis facing the capital in the short term, which he believes expanding the zone will have the biggest effect on emissions relative to the cost of Londoners as a whole. But it doesn't, though, because people are still going to use the cars.
Yep, and it's just then a money-making ploy.
And we've said it before in previous podcasts, are electric vehicles going to be the way forward? Because the batteries only last for so long. If you're doing a long trip, that's for you, really.
But it's not even to do with that. You have a petrol car, you have emissions there and then. You have an electric car, you've still got emissions, but they're 200 miles away at the coal power plant in Wales that's then pumping out a load of crap because they're making more electricity to charge these electric vehicles.
Yeah, so the newer power plants that they're making with the solar farms, the wind farms, can't keep up. And it's okay at the moment because not everyone has an electric car. So there's only maybe a few at night charging up. But what happens when everyone gets one, or when the majority get them? At night, when the power grids are low, and that's when they can do the maintenance because they can start turning stuff off and shutting down parts of the plants because there's no need for electricity.
Yeah.
But yet, when everyone's charging their cars up at 2 kilowatts at a time, 5 kilowatts, whatever, can be produced at a time, well, that means that the power plants have to stay active all night and they're never going to be able to maintain them as well as is our electricity grid strong enough to support that, especially if you've got several cars charging during the day when your home's on. I mean, the average home can take I think it's 2 kilowatts the average distribution board in a home can take. And that's really the maximum you can draw in a house. And obviously that'll be when you've got your cooker on, your washer on, your dryer on. So when everything's going, and then you try and stick a car on there as well. Is the grid going to be able to support that?
But then there's this with, you've not only got cars, obviously they're looking at buses.
Sharston have already got it in Manchester. Look how much space that they've lost for storage of buses to then create a charging point for the electric vehicles.
Yes, and then they either have to get a bigger depot or another depot, which then uses even more electricity because it's now another building.
Yep. But you've got that. You've got how long do they take to go from, let's say the buses get battered, because some of them might not be able to get charged every night.
No.
So then you know, you have the maximum capacity of buses on charge every night, which means, in essence, energy prices are going up. They're already going up as they are. But because there's a higher demand for it, supply and demand, the prices go up.
I mean, the current level from London, the charge is £12.50 a daily charge level for cars, vans, and motorbikes that do not meet the standards, and that would be retained. I mean, £12.50 to drive your car into London.
What I mean, you pay that for parking alone in Manchester, never mind London.
Yeah. I know they want to push people onto public transport, but is this really the right way about it? I know the mayor of Manchester, he's trying to do that, but he's trying to make a London-style bus style, but yet that doesn't make any profit, and profit isn't everything. But at the end of the day, you've got to make that money to be able to reinvest it. If he's going to be able to do that, then fair enough. But by lowering the fares down even further, he's not going to be able to have that amount of profit.
Yep.
Be able to reinvest it.
The fares in Manchester, I've spoke to loads of people, and they are the cheapest around.
Yeah.
Everyone's happy with them.
Yeah. Well, the majority of people think it's a rip-off, but then if you go to Buxton, places like that, it gets even more expensive. Yeah. You go to Derby, it's expensive, I believe. It's not cheap in places. So Manchester does have some of the cheapest fares. I mean, we've said it before. What is a day rider these days? $5.30 for the day. But
I think it's $5.30 for the day. For a system one, it's £6 or $6.50.
Yeah, but you can go anywhere. So surely if you're making a few journeys, that's more cost effective. Even if your maximum fare is where you're going. Say you go from Hattersley to Manchester, it's $3.50, $3.60, whatever for a single. You're going to get the day saver because it's cheaper to come back. And to be fair, to get from Hattersley to Manchester, which is 15 mile?
Yeah, about 10 mile.
Yeah. Well, by the time you're going around the bus route, it's
about 15 mile.
That's not bad, that, really, because you're doing 30 miles for £5.30. You try doing that in your car with current fuel prices in your petrol car and park. You ain't doing that.
Yep.
So it's not that expensive yet. It takes a bit longer on the bus. And you have to deal with some of the idiots that are on there. But it's just madness. I know I used to watch. He's currently gone down a bit at the moment. Is that Thomas Sparky? I can't think of his name now on YouTube. And he had an electric van, and he said it was great for doing the short runs into London itself. But anything other than that, it just didn't get there.
Yeah, I've the people that used to provide flowers and decorations to my work. They've got a fleet of diesel Mercedes vans. Do you know the high top ones?
Oh yes.
And they recently got a electric one as a trial thing from Mercedes. Heating, because it's an electric heater, is very poor and very rubbish.
And eats the batteries.
Yeah, that's got to drive from Macclesfield into Manchester every day and then back.
Oh, I think I know which company you mean. I can't think of the name of it, but I think I know which one you mean.
Begins with an S.
Yeah.
Black and silver vans.
Yeah. I know which one.
Yeah. So they've got an electric van. I've spoken to the person that does it. When it's fully charged, let's say you do 70 miles.
Yeah.
Just getting out of their yard, it'll use 10 of those miles because it's up a hill.
Yeah.
And then they've got to drive into Manchester fully loaded with plants, soil, trolleys, helium tanks.
Yeah.
So that's, a van that you would, if it was fueled, you'd get, what, 200 miles out of it?
Yeah.
You probably get more than that. You probably get about 300-400, but let's say 200 miles out of it. Straight away,
Yeah.
by going to electric, you've halved that.
Yeah.
So is it really worth it? And then you've got the cost of the batteries and replacing them, because obviously charging them every day is going to run them down. You're going to get damaged cells. You're going to get leaky batteries. You're going to get corrosion on the battery terminals. What is the cost between maintaining an engine, which with a diesel engine, glow plugs, injectors, air filter, fuel filter, oil, compared to an electric one where you've got carbon brushes, problems with your batteries, problems with your wiring, relays and fuses, the whole motors. You've got all of that. So is it really cost effective for us to move to electricity?
And then you've got people like Elon Musk, who's the leader in electric vehicles, and he banged on several years ago about the electric truck that he was making, and yet we yet to see that. But is an electric truck really going to work when it's trying to pull 44 tons of quarry stone out of Buxton?
See, one thing I will say about Elon Musk is he had a concept, he built it.
Yeah.
With the Tesla, like your Model S and whatever else.
Very nice cars, but I believe they're a pain in the bottom to own.
They are, because you can't do your own maintenance. You've got to go to Tesla.
Yeah.
They do not provide serviceable parts for none of it. But with them, he built it and got it out there, which is what should have been done, because he's done a rolling road test. He's rolled it out to people, and it's been tested in the real world like it should be.
Do you reckon his car went a little too far when they tried making the automation of it? I mean, I get driver assist in that, but the fully automation of it, I think, is a bit too far.
Oh, it's always too far. It's like they did it with that bus in Sharston.
Yeah.
It's always too far, but I think it's more so seeing what you can do with technology.
Yeah, I mean, having an automated train like the Docklands Light Railway is one thing. It can't really hit anything. But out on the road, I personally believe there's too much unknown going on all the time to be able to have something automated. And people can't drive normal cars these days without crashing because they're on the phone or whatever.
There is automated aspects to cars at the moment. Stuff like your adaptive cruise control or your lane assist.
Yeah, I've used that. That's very good.
It's beautiful.
Stuff like that's okay because it's helping the driver. The driver still has to stay, still has to be awake.
Yep.
And everything.
But then when they do come into, like, Musk at the moment is creating his underground.
Oh, don't even get me started on that. That's a joke and a half. I follow Thunderfoot on that one, and that I agree with Thunderfoot. That is just a total joke and a total waste of time and energy and messing about, quite frankly.
It is, but he's got a concept and he's trying to fulfill it.
Yeah, by making cars go 200 mile an hour underground, which actually only do 30 mile an hour underground because he can only build under the streets that the local government council, whatever it is over there, own. So some of his corners are quite tight. And the current loop that he's got at the moment, a lot of it is quicker to walk it than it is to actually get in the car. So it's more of a novelty. But it is an idea.
But if you, let's say
something like the underground that London have to cities that don't have an underground.
Yeah. But the good thing with something like that is it'd be a lot of man hours, but having something like that where you could do 200 to 300 miles an hour going from underground, the USA to the UK or the USA to Europe.
Yeah.
Something like that would be beautiful. Or even like the Channel Tunnel. You have it so it goes from the UK to Paris. Doing little links like that, or from Europe to Africa.
Yeah, that makes sense with his plan. But I think it's the way he puts his plan out that doesn't really work, quite frank, with it. But he, as you say, he does have a vision and he's trying to fulfill the vision. But he has got a lot of hurdles in his way. And I know that he's had quite a few problems with his tunnels recently, which is a shame, but it's one of them things. But as I say, have we really explored the natural gas buses or natural gas vehicles?
Yeah, you've got your hydrogen vehicles.
Yeah, and not many people seem to buy them. But why? Why don't people buy them when they're just as environmentally friendly? As others, I know it's like carrying an explosive bomb on the roof of a bus because hydrogen is highly combustible. But at the same point, is carrying a lithium battery underneath your car. It's the same sort of thing. Something goes wrong, both are going to go up in a fireball.
Oh yeah,
very quickly.
Yep.
With diesel, at least diesel, it's one of them oils that doesn't really burn until it gets to a stupid temperature.
Either that or in a very fine mist.
Yeah. Petrol's another thing. Petrol burns as soon as it gets hot.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't even be hot.
But that's a lot of things that people don't realise. Diesel is probably one of the safer fuels out there because it does take quite a bit to actually burn it. If your car starts burning, you've got a diesel, you're quite safe for a while. Your tyres might explode, the whole of the car might be gone, but I bet you still got your full tank of diesel you've had.
Well, you say that, but with them bringing out plastic tanks at the moment.
Well, yeah, the plastic tank melts and you have a trail of diesel down the road, which then does actually more damage than what a metal tank would have done.
Yep.
So, it's just...
I don't know about that, because I know certain metal tanks that leave trails of diesel down the road.
I know them tanks too.
Yeah.
But another operator is getting electric buses as well here. The Tower Transit, which is another London operator. They've Switch Mobility again had to supply a fleet of 12 Metro City electric buses, which look like an Optare Versa, quite frankly. It'll be the first customer for the updated 9.4 Metro City delivery vehicles to expand in 2023. It says the contract will further reinforce its position in the global technology leader, which is interesting in a way because Manchester use ADL, well, BYD.
Yep.
And these are using Switch, which is it's a different company and a different take. We've had the bus war of diesel buses. Now we seem to be having this war of electric buses, and who can provide the best electric bus.
Yeah, but that's competition. That's like anything.
It is, and it's not a bad thing. But yeah, they look like Optare Versas.
Lovely.
If anything, it's probably a rip-off of an Optare Versa.
It's probably Optare Versa chassis.
It looks like an Optare Versa chassis, but a bit more nosed in at the front. Judging by the picture that Bus and Coach Weekly have on it. But I do like the paper blind it's got in. It does look very smart, quite frankly. Switch is proud to supply the most efficient electric buses in the UK, and we're delighted to be working with Tower Transit to electrify Route 339. Our Metro City product is perfectly suited for the requirements of London's roads and passengers on the route, which will soon be able to travel, knowing their journey will be carbon neutral, supporting the greener planet. Which is great.
See, I've just seen that picture of that Switch electric bus.
Oh, yes.
And this is getting into the whole thing of your Northern Counties body stuff and whatever else. You know, you've got your Switch body, You've got your LED body and stuff now, and that's what it's going to get to, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's going back how it was 20 years ago.
It's getting that way. The other thing that I'd bring up with that picture, to be fair, is the fact that London still use dual-door buses. And now working where I work, dual-door it's a nightmare when you don't have a dual-door, quite frankly. Especially on some of the services we do. You see the single door pull up and you're like, oh, no. I mean, we've got one that's a triple door, and I don't understand the triple door, quite frankly, because the back doors are next to each other. It's a bit counterproductive, if you ask me. It's just more things to go wrong.
The good thing for you is it's a free bus service. You can have sort of as many doors as you want.
Yeah, you just open it up. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember, you should remember when Manchester had their dual doors for a while, the Tridents on 141. And that was great, that you could just pull up at the stop, open the door, and everyone just got on and off. It's so much quicker. A lot of the time spent for buses, especially idling, is loading and unloading.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're going to get a few more fare dodges, but London tackle the fare dodges by more inspections. And they don't do what up here we have ticket inspectors where they get on in their big high-vis jackets and you can see them about a mile away. They get on in plain clothes, so you don't know they got on the bus until they're on the bus.
Yeah.
At which point you're paying the fine. Which is a much better system, if you ask me, of doing it.
But with that, those inspectors are provided by the council, sort of TfL.
Yeah.
The ones up here are private company inspectors.
Yeah.
Which also, with them being private company inspectors, they have no authority, which is why they go around with police.
Yeah, they can. A private inspector will be able to issue a £50 standard fare charge,
which is only an invoice.
Yeah.
And the police can obtain the details.
Yeah. I know they prefer doing it with the police because normally someone who doesn't pay a fare has a lot more to hide than just not paying a fare. So a lot of the time they'll get drug dealers and all sorts of people that they wouldn't have normally got that are avoiding the system, which is good. But again, the police don't have the numbers to be able to do it in this day and age because that's been cut. And everything seems to run on a skeleton at the moment, which is just our culture that we've got at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, you have that, but then have you got the aspect of sort of not being trained properly with what happened yesterday in Manchester with that police car and a bus?
Oh, yeah, I wasn't going to bring that one up, but yes, that was... Interesting images. They're interesting images, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
That car is a write-off no matter what.
It is.
Which is another taxpayers' money going to have to buy. I think it was a BMW on it.
No, it was a Peugeot, that.
Oh, was it just a Peugeot?
It was a standard issue Peugeot 208.
Well, it was. It's now a very short version of a Peugeot 208.
Yeah. But with that, the bus, it'll probably have a bit of floor damage, which will be repaired, and it'll be back on the road in 6 weeks, if they can get the parts.
Yeah. Where the car will cost, what, another 10 grand for another one?
No, well, the car, let's call it 18 grand for the car, because that's roughly going right.
Yeah.
Then you've got to kit out the lights and everything.
Yeah.
So, 25 grand.
Yeah. But
then with that, you've got the officer, which is going to be suspended while it's under investigation. So you're then paying his or her wages as well.
Yeah. But it's just endless costs that shouldn't need to be there. But what doesn't help with the endless costs that takes, I've noticed this now a lot looking on like TikTok, Facebook, and all that. A lot of police officers are so busy with these people that call themselves auditors. They're so busy dealing with them, they can't deal with normal crime because they're too busy dealing with some idiot with a camera.
Yeah.
That trying to get a reaction out of them.
And that's all it is at the moment with those with the cameras, is they're just trying to get a reaction and piss people off, in essence.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of them, and they're very good auditors, to be fair. They're not like some of them that are aggressive or whatever. You know, the police come over to them, or the security, they answer the questions, and happy days.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, there was one that I saw this morning, and there was a facility that had high value items in, and one of the managing directors come over and asked, could he take his drone down from the sky?
Yeah.
And the guy turned around and went, unfortunately, I'm just recording a video. You don't control the airspace. And the guy turned around and went, well, I'm going to ring the police. And he went, you ring the police then, but do tell them that I'm not being aggressive. I'm recording a video.
I think I know which one you're on about.
And he is right.
Yeah.
The guy can't do anything. He's got high security around his perimeter of his business. Whether it's suspicion of breaking in or whatnot, if he wants the airspace restricted and stop people from flying over, then he needs to get in contact with the CAA.
Yeah.
The guy's done everything legally that way. He knows the CAA rules. He knows CAA airspace. His aircraft, the drone was, it had the call sign and everything.
And it conforms with the code of flying in there. I think if it's the same one, he's got one of the sub 200 gram drones. We can fly it anywhere he wants.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I do know which one you're on about, and I do prefer watching him because he's always dead polite. But it's like them people, they're just wasting police time at that point because there's nothing the police can do. They'll just turn up and go, okay, and bugger off.
Yeah.
But if businesses are that concerned with high value stuff, what about all the satellites that take pictures?
Yeah.
You only have to go on Google Maps and
probably go on Google Earth now and look and see exactly what's in his yard.
It might be last year, but you've got an idea what's in his yard anyway. I mean, look at when we stored the B10 down at Storage World. It took a year, but then you could clearly see that there was a bus parked in there.
Yeah.
And no doubt the dart will appear on there soon when it next gets updated again. You can see exactly what's in yards. It's how we've gone and found space for our bus because we just looked on Google Maps and going, well, that caravan park doesn't have much room. That doesn't. Oh, they have room. And that's how it's been done.
But it's like when you're trying to find somewhere with, let's say, scrap buses, for instance. Google Maps. It's your friend straight away. Just go and look on there and see what's there.
Yeah. It might be a bit out of date, but they don't scrap the buses that quickly. Especially when they get towards like the back of them, and bus geeks and what can work out just from the roof of buses what buses are and what's in their yards.
Yep. Well, I did this yesterday. My dad was curious about Ripley's. So I pulled up Ripley's and straight away from roof I could go Arriva, Stagecoach, Arriva, First.
Yeah.
It's pulled them straight off. It's just like I've just gone on Google Maps now over the Hyde Road bus depot. I can see that there's a hybrid parked up, a training bus.
Yeah.
An Avaro 400, several of them.
And if that's not good enough, you can get on the train and see it as you pass.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's just a waste of police time. And some of the things that people call the police for just wasting their time it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, where I am now, the police are that busy moving cars on and trying to police the roads because people just won't pay.
Yep.
And
which I've had. I was chatting to someone that was going for an interview at the airport, and someone I work with.
That gives it away. Never mind. Go on.
It gives what away?
Yeah, the airport. Go on.
Yeah, well, either way, I was up at the airport and police there. We just pulled up somewhere and we were having a chat. I was, for my job, doing chauffeuring, dropping someone off, and, we stopped and had a chat. And 2 minutes later, police come round and shifts us and about 7 other cars on that were pulled up there.
Yeah.
We were just having a chat. People were there actually waiting.
I mean, at the moment, it's that roundabout above the motorway.
That's always been bad.
And the police have to sit there. I mean, recently they've managed to get a Womble to sit there instead. But that's their space for an hour taken up because people deem it acceptable to stop on a roundabout.
Yeah.
And especially when it gets busy, they'll stop on both sides of the roundabout, blocking the junctions on and off the roundabout. And somehow people find this acceptable. And it's just not, unfortunately.
Well, this sounds really stupid, but if they get it right, that road isn't private land, but the rest of the airport is.
But I'm sure they'd be able to speak to the council because they've got a good relationship with the council and get red lines painted on that roundabout.
The council own the airport.
Well, that's what I mean.
But not all the land is private. I was having this conversation with a driver the other day. Only some of the roads are private, which is why they can't red line it. They only can yellow line it.
Yeah.
Unlike Birmingham Airport and I think Leeds, they're red lined because they own 100% of the land. But we're saying, I mean, you've got the free drop off, so you can drop off for free. And the bus is always there, and if there's not one, there'll be one in a minute because the radio only come get you. But then, okay, picking up, it's a £5. But yeah, you can wait in the estate, wait for the person to ring you, and then you're guaranteed to only have to pay a £5.
Yeah.
I mean, the busiest is T1, obviously, but then if that's the busiest, you just go, will you walk round to T3, which is empty half the time.
But then that £5, it's it's inconvenience of paying for a £5. They'd rather sit there for 5 minutes and waste £1 of fuel, and then
or get a fine from the police for stopping in a place they're not supposed to stop.
Well, it's these ones that stop on the slip road that I don't agree with.
Oh yeah, and the motorway, yeah.
Yep.
And most of them seem to be taxis a lot of the time, which begs the question of professional drivers should know better.
Well, they would do if they weren't on. What's it called? Rosendale plates or Wolverhampton plates, or Sefton plates.
But that's not really an excuse. They're still a professional driver.
Yes.
It's like in the free drop-off last night, a taxi was have a go at by a marshal because he has a card that allows him to go into the private hire waiting place. And I believe the facility's there for the drivers so they can go spend a penny or whatever. And he has a card, but he decided to wait with everyone else. And he wasn't waiting to drop off. He's allowed there to wait to pick up, but he has to then go to the terminal. So he doesn't have to wait in the terminals.
Yeah.
But he was waiting for someone to come round, and that's not allowed. And they were trying to tell him that if he keeps it, all they can see on CCTV is this taxi parked where it's not supposed to be parked.
Yeah.
And they know he's come in with a card, so they'll take the card off him. And he was arguing, blue in the face with this traffic marshal about it. And the traffic marshal ended up driving off from him because it's like he sort of got to the picture that he wasn't going to win with this guy, and the taxi drove off. But the facilities are there. Yeah, they're not always going to be the best, but if people didn't park like idiots, it would all flow a bit better. I mean, the roundabouts are endlessly being blocked up with cars parking on them.
But with this, it's not just the airport, changing subjects totally. It's not just the airport where you get people that park stupidly.
Oh, no, it's everywhere.
Oxford Road Arches, regular problem, and the council won't do anything about it. They get traffic wardens out, and then people still park there because they don't care.
Yeah, and the system's so slow that the traffic wardens might get one fine out of it, and everyone else buggers off in the time they've got one fine out, which is why they were sending 3 or 4 of them down, but that's more because they were being threatened and attacked.
But even still, with that, I get on quite well with traffic wardens with my job. Traffic wardens, for them to issue, they can't just issue a ticket straight away. They have to wait, and the vehicle has to be sat there for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
If it's a vehicle that's loading and unloading, they get 20.
But it's like the traffic wardens weren't too bad, really, were they, for the buses? Because when we worked for Stagecoach, we could park on Charlotte Street, and they just walked past us.
Oh yeah, they didn't care
They
because
didn't
they thought
bother.
you'd be moving on within a couple of minutes.
Yeah, they didn't really. It was only if you was blocking the way. There was like, oh, come on, move on a bit, will you?
But even still, you'd have a laugh and a joke with them, and they'd say, "Come on, move on," and you'd bugger off, drive around the block, and pull back up there.
Yeah. But just people's respect for the road and where they stop is unbelievable, and it's only getting worse. Which it's. I mean, there was a picture. I think it wasn't. It was one of them videos of someone not stopping at a zebra crossing. They couldn't see the zebra crossing because there was a bloody car parked on the zigzags.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. Would you do it on your test? No, so don't do it once you pass your test.
Well, that's the attitude that people have got. Well, I'm not on my test, so I can do what I want.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Anyway, moving on, because we spent like 20 minutes on that.
I know. It's good, isn't it?
DWS offer for Stagecoach becomes unconditional. This was 24th of the 5th. This was reported on the evening on Friday the 20th. PF33, whatever, big company indirect panel infrastructures fund management advised DBF to announce the offer become unconditional. This occurs once the bidder has received sufficient acceptance from the shareholders of the target company to sell. So basically, they've managed to purchase, or the level of acceptance received was 270,222,325 of Stagecoach's shares, which is approximately 49% of the capital that Stagecoach have in respect to the 57 million and a bit shares, of which is 10.46%, which is subject to irrevocable, so it becomes unconditional. So it looks like Stagecoach has been sold, and it wasn't to National Express after all.
Yeah.
But that's just a change of management. But what does that then mean for everything else? I mean, I know Megabus has been up in the air for a while. I'm just trying to read it quickly. Yeah, because Go Ahead tried buying Comfort Delgro. Go Ahead. It would become the United Kingdom's second largest intercity coach operator as part of the two agreements. Will require Stagecoach's remaining 35% stake in the Scottish CityLink coaches, turning the wholly owned subsidiary of Scottish Link, which becomes 65% owned by Comfort Delgro in 2005. But Megabus these days, it's not even operated by Stagecoach anymore, is it? It's operated by M-Travel, which I know has shares and dealings with Stagecoach. But they don't really... I think Megabus has seen the end of the road. I don't know what your views, because they had a big operation before COVID, and when they cut down, they just never established it.
Yeah, COVID's done a lot of things for companies like that. The only one that seems to have kept its head up is National Express, but then you've got the coming of Flixbus now. Flixbus, yeah. I saw one or two buses before COVID, whereas now I'm seeing Flixbus everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think they've possibly bought routes off Stagecoach, if that's the same as the way that it works within cities and whatever.
I'm not too sure how it works for coaching.
Yeah, and
apply for the route.
It'll be Flixbus that are doing the routes that Stagecoach binned off with Megabus.
Yeah, I mean, National Express were always going to do well during the pandemic, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but because of the way National Express runs, all it required was that the coach companies that run National Express didn't go under.
Yeah.
But
all with National Express had to do was go, rather than us renting, because that's all they do, renting 100 buses off, 20 different companies, they would have just gone, no, we only need to rent 20 buses and do that off 3 different companies.
Well, I know when I worked at Selwyn's, I believe National Express bought the buses for them, which was then to their spec. Selwyn's got to choose. They was given a choice, and they got to choose which ones got bought for them. And then they went in National Express's livery with everything that National Express require, like the iCams, the drive cam, this entertainment system on board, everything like that. And then they'll run for so long, and at the end of that time, they'll come up for sale. So then it's whether the coach operator wants to buy the coaches that have been on National Express, or they get sold off.
Right.
National Express get new coaches in, and I believe that's how they work it. So it's an interesting model in a way, because from what I believe, National Express own the coaches and the routes, but they just subcontract it out to be ran by all the other coach companies. I know they run some of their own, but a lot of it's run by subcontractors.
Yeah.
But it's still a very clever business deal in a way, because they don't have to have a operator's license for all these coaches, because the operator's license falls under whichever coach company is operating it. So it's up to them to maintain it, not National Express. But that does not stop National Express sending out inspectors. Several times when I was on it and we got to Birmingham, you'd be greeted with an inspector there who would go around and inspect the coach in Birmingham. And that's to make sure, A, the driver's done the checks correctly, and B, the companies are maintaining them to the correct standard and everything was working. You'd check what temperature your aircon was set at, you'd check that your entertainment system worked, check all your wheels were attached to the bus, and oil leaks, everything like that, you'd check there while you're on the stand. And if anything was amiss, that was it. You'd be taken out of service there and then. And the company that was operating it would be fined by National Express, which is how they get the money back. Because National Express will pay, say, Selwyn's to run the service and then endlessly fine them to get the money back.
Yeah.
But again, it's a good money spinner if you're doing everything correctly.
Well, yeah, it's like anything.
Ironically, Flexi Bus is the one that I've also got, which has joined forces with Hearn's Coaches.
Hearn's Coaches.
Hearn's Coaches
Yeah.
have the same difference. From the 12th of May, they'll start running services between London, Leicester and Bradford. The new routes will serve Victoria Coach Station and Finchley Road in the capital, as well as Leicester, Fushy Shopping Park, Bradford Interchange, Sheffield Meadowhall. They will operate initially on a daily basis with the option to add additional coaches added as the demand increases for the high season. So, yeah, it does seem to be taking off there, because Flexibus was, Felix Bus in America. It's an American thing, or is it EU? I think it's EU, innit?
Flexbus is EU.
Yeah, I'm just reading it now. And they had 500 coach companies all over Europe, and they have a clear strategy to expand into Britain and offer operations of a competitive compensation package which incentivises a good performance and high standards, which takes on the lion's share risk. It says, because we don't pay for this, we've only got some information. But are they then now becoming a key competitor to National Express, essentially? Because National Express don't do anything over into Europe, and are these going to start running coaches in and out of Europe?
Well,
which then puts a very big competition in for National Express, essentially, doesn't it? Because Megabus, really, they're not a competition of National Express anymore, because they only do a few routes, and they got hit with that scandal for the £1 ticket. But I know when I was on it, tickets weren't that expensive for National Express. I've not looked at Felix Bus. But is it going to be a big competition for him?
This is the question.
I've never been to Victoria Coach Station, but I believe it's very tight in there, getting in and out. I've seen many pictures of buses taking out railings and what have you.
Yeah, but you've also seen that at Manchester, Charlton Street.
Yeah, I've also seen a crane take one off. So, yeah. But that's another thing. A lot of these cities, are they actually made to take these tracks coaches? I mean, yeah, great. The turning circles are very tight. But again, going back to the standards of driving of everyone, car drivers don't expect the rear end to swing out as much as they do. And they'll try and creep down every little gap possible, even if the driver of a coach or wagon is trying to take up all the room. They must take up that little bit of space, and next minute they get wiped out.
Yeah, because car drivers don't care about other drivers.
No. But I think that's going to wrap it up, really, because we've sort of used up all the time, and I've got to get to the pass office at some point. So, yeah, it's been an interesting month, really, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to quickly talk about our own vehicle for those that have stuck around for the 50 odd minutes that we've got.
Yeah, we can do for the next couple of minutes. Yeah, so our vehicle at the moment, I'm sure you've all seen the videos of it with its fueling problems, of changing the injectors, there's changing the fuel line, there's rebuilding it, whatever else, trying to get it to turn over. And the starter has decided it's going to no longer want to work.
Well, that's possibly an understatement.
Well, no. We found out that it no longer wants to work. Upon further inspection of opening it up, it has decided that it was going to spit out. Well, it's been going for a long while because one of the bearings is missing a grease cover and half of its bearings. So where it's meant to have 16 bearings in, it's only got 8. It doesn't spin very well, and that grease cover that was meant to be on it to hold the bearings in has decided that it's going to go into the... I can't think of what it's called. Got into the insides of the starter motor where the actual motor part is and short out one of the
coils
lines on the... I think it begins with an A. It's like I can't think of what it is.
But anyway, it shorted it out and
shorted it out, and now it no longer runs.
It's put the full ampage of the batteries all over it, which is... I know a starter is a heavy bit of kit, but I don't think it's meant to take 2,000 cold crank amps over it in one go. It's a bit excessive.
Yeah, well, with that, because it's shorted it out, obviously these splines on the insides of the starter motor have shorted out. It now no longer wants to run. The armature, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the armature is got 2 damaged splines on it, which, if it could be repaired easily, it could be repaired, and then it should, theoretically speaking, work. But the way it's going, I think it's going to be a new starter motor and give us a little bit more longevity with the engine. We'll get higher ampage ones, so it cranks it over a little bit nicer as well. So we're aiming to do that, and we are aiming, for those that have stuck around, to get to a show at the beginning of August.
I think we'll be the only bus there. It's those that will remember. It's the Newton. I think it was Newton Le Willows town show, where not last year, before COVID, we operated in 317. We operated the free service for them. Oh, Scott and Toby operated it. They dressed up, polished up well. And they were very pleased with the service, and they contacted again to do it, and we accepted. And then as soon as we accepted, the starter motor went.
Which is always the way. There's always an inconvenience somewhere.
It is, but but we've got that, and hopefully then following that we can get to the shows that we planned on going to, like the Peakdale one and what have you. Hopefully, in theory.
Yeah. Obviously, follow us on all the socials: Instagram, follow our website, YouTube. Find the rest of these podcasts on Spotify. Go on, where else can we find them?
Apple, Google. So it's on all the main podcast providers. It is also on YouTube if you want to listen on YouTube as well. But if you want to listen when you're out and about, it is, as you say, on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I am working to try and get it on other ones, but it's a bit more difficult than it is. We need a bit more viewership. As always, if you do enjoy our content, you do have the ability to support us. You can find that way of supporting us on the website. You can find it on there, or you can just go straight to Patreon or support us through YouTube, whichever way. There's plenty of ways. If you want to support us, but we don't offer a service that you think that we should, then do get in contact with us. I will be adding a contact page shortly to the website, so you'll be able to actually email us properly and easily. But all the details for contacting us are under every single video anyway. But we are looking at trying to expand the services that we provide, and within reason we can provide quite a bit. It's just providing them essentially. So yeah, and as always, if you're not already subscribed to us on YouTube, but you do watch us on YouTube, then please do subscribe, because the current figures, if it'll come up, is that over 66% of you that watch us aren't subscribed, which is a lot. And we're this year we're on the road for 8,000 subscribers, and we'd like to get there. And I believe with 66% of people that don't subscribe, the subscriber won't be far off 8,000 views. And again, if you've got an idea for a video that you'd like us to do, whether it's to help you pass your PSV test or whatever, then do get in touch and we can see what we can do about it. That's the whole aim for our channel, is to help drivers and help new drivers and show the preservation scene at the same time. I don't think there's much more to add to that one.
No, neither. I think on that note we'll wrap up, and yeah.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking your time to listen, and we shall see you next month on the 1st once again for another exciting podcast. And hopefully this time I'm going to aim for at least about 4 or 5 of us, hopefully, and we can try and have some decent conversations. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you later.
Bye bye.
Now.